episode of the Train Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Today on the Train Studio update, I wanted to kind of bring you a few things in terms of studio-related items, as well as I'm going to try to do a little bit of a dual camera setup. Again, I'm still playing around and messing around with a lot of things in studio, so I am patient with the process, and I just would hope that you guys are patient with me as well. So what I have running right now is I have this camera here, obviously the one I'm in front of. I have the studio lighting, the new ones. I'm still messing around a little bit with it. This is a little bit awkward. I'm kind of in my studio, so it's a little bit dim and dark. So I get this little bit of a shadow here. So kind of my friend that's moving in the background, just kind of ignore him. So, but I am much happier with the lighting that I have coming here. Additionally, I have another camera running just here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a quick kind of, not really a how-to, although I am going to show you how to do something. I'm going to show you how I work with one of my favorite products, terrain making. It's a really versatile product. So what it is a Vallejo earth paste, and it comes in a variety of colors. This one in particular here is the earth texture, and it's just basically a brown color, Terra Maron, I guess they call it. So again, just very much a brown color. And the paste is really kind of like a toothpaste, I guess. There's a little bit of grit in it, but not much. So what I do is I often add a little bit of texture to it. So we're going to be working with that there, and I'm going to kind of show you some steps in terms of how you can change some fairly simplistic bases into maybe something a little more exciting. Using basic products, you will need a few things, and I'm going to kind of walk you through that. So let's have a look and see how I kind of get started with that. Okay, so what we need now is we're going to work with a couple different size bases. We're going to work with some small rounds and some larger round bases. I'm just using these as examples. So obviously you would have some figs and things like that you'd attach to them, but I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to pretend like I'm working on ground surface. So that's kind of our surface or our substrate that we're working with. In terms of tools, we're going to go really complex today. What we're going to work with is popsicle sticks and toothpicks. So what I want to do is try to bring this to you from the most simplistic methods. So you don't have to go out and buy expensive tools and things like that. Again, we will work with the earth paste, so this will be a product that you'll need to purchase. Additionally, we're going to be using a few other materials, and I'm going to kind of give you cheap substitutes so that you may want to kind of find these things around the house or your yard if you're so inclined to kind of have these materials easily at hand. We will need to work with one other device, and we'll be working with a hot glue gun. And it's important to note here, I'm using a low temp hot glue gun, and I'm using low temperature hot glue gun glue. So it's a little bit different. It's typically a little more opaque. And it's a little bit easier to work with in terms of this. It doesn't run quite as much. It gives you kind of mounds, and that's exactly what we're going to use it. We're going to use it to save us on material. So again, I'm trying to do this as low cost for you guys as possible. So that's quite important. The next thing we want to do is just have a look at how we're going to actually use this material. So what I have is some medium ballast. And I'm just going to put this into a small cup so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. So hopefully that becomes a little bit easier to see on camera. So it's kind of like a sandy type texture. It's considered medium grain. As well, I'm going to grab out some fine ballast. So again, this could be stuff that you can use or find around the house. Not necessarily this color. One of the examples that I'll show you kind of found around is sand, just straight up sand. So I'm going to do another little small mixture of that. And this has a variety of textures. I've actually added a bit of medium ballast in there as well, just because it was fine sand before. So it kind of gives you basically a mixture. If you wanted to, you could take a medium and fine ballast, mix them together to make your own sort of slurry. So that's three that we're going to work with there, or three materials that you potentially could work with. Another thing that you might want to do for your bases, other than vegetation, we're going to stick just with ground cover and not work on vegetation just yet. That's going to be a part two when we kind of do some inking and some final work on that. But another thing that we might want to add to this is just some rocks. So some plain old, this is considered pea gravel. I do wash it just to clean it up a little bit, just to take some of that dust off. But this would be something that you could probably find outside anywhere. All right, so that's our kind of base materials. Another option, this one here is another product that you'd have to purchase, but what it's called is, it's called Super Turf. So the Super Turf's kind of cool. It's a leaf litter type product. And what they've basically done is take some ground up leaves, which you could do yourself, some sticks, some twigs, a little bit of dirt, and then just sort of mix it in. It's really nice to add for a fall scene, or if you want to kind of make a sort of a muddy, murky type substrate with lots of kind of detritus type material, you know, that broke down, decomposed, organic matter. So we can work with this as well. Again, this would be another product. This one is available from Scenic Express, and it's just Super Turf leaf litter. So I'll put a little bit of that in a cup too, and I can kind of show you maybe how that works. And we can use, what I'm going to try to do is kind of dual purpose a lot of this stuff. So you'll be able to see kind of how you can use it straight out of the container, and then how you can maybe work with another substance, for example, the Vallejo earth paste, and then kind of mix that into a combination to, again, change the look of this material. All right, so we have that set aside. Just going to get a couple more toothpicks. And now what we want to do is, we want to, if you want to change, I guess, the base surface. So let's just say, for example, let's work with the big one here. Let's kind of create a little bit of a build-up area. So I'm going to kind of build up an area here. Again, this low temp glue moves around pretty easily. I'm just trying to break up the edges so it's not so globular. All right, so that's one area there I built up. And what I'm actually going to do with this one is I'm going to define a couple areas that in part 2 I will show you how to use some water effect, and we can actually create some puddles. All right, so that is all we've done. So we've just laid down some glue. You can kind of see where I've defined some perimeter areas for puddles, and we'll go ahead and let that dry, and we'll set that up in the next one. Let's do the next couple, and we'll just leave those plain flats. All right. So what this is definitely gonna have to be a couple parts, because we have to have some working time, and then we have to have some dry time as well. So just comes in a little airtight container. Pull that off. It's not hard to work with. Again, I'm just going to use a popsicle stick here. Again, that's kind of the consistency there. It's like, kind of like toothpaste, peanut butter. Don't eat it. But into the cup it goes. So what I typically do is mix about 2 parts of this to 1 part of whatever I'm putting in there. Now, you can change the ratio as you see fit. The ratio really is going to be how smooth or pliable you want the material. If you want it to be really gritty and grainy, and really when you pick up that dry brush, you want to have a lot of the rock popping, then you go heavier with your additional substrate, your ballasts. If you want it to be more smooth and really subtle and maybe only have a little bit of pooling with inks, then you're going to go a bit lighter. But for this one right here, let's go into the fun stuff. Let's go in and actually make our base layer with the detritus. So we're going to take this leaf litter, we're going to mix that right into the cup, just like so. We're going to take our popsicle stick, and we're going to start mixing that material together. when you guys are watching this video later on, if you find anything helpful, obviously that would be nice to let me know. If you find anything unhelpful or you'd like to see different, that's also fine. And if you guys want to comment about both the lighting setup as well as the secondary camera, I'm just trying to make it as visible and interactive as possible for all you guys. Okay, so this is very gross and nasty now. Just gonna check our glue. We are good on the glue. All right, so now what we're gonna wanna do is take this material and we can go ahead and just start directly applying it on to our base. And I made this particularly thick, so it is not going to be a lot of paste material. It's going to be more of the leaf litter sticking out. You can see I got a lot of very uneven surfaces here, and so later on when we go in and kind of pick this up, I'm not looking to redefine and paint out leaves or anything like that. I'm looking to have that real airy looking surface, that real mud and built up layer. So I'm banking it right up on the same areas that I've built up the glue. And again, I'm just kind of sort of slanting it down towards the edges. There we go. Get my meaty hands out of the way here. Now, obviously, if you had a figure, you'd want to leave some room for that, or you'd want to have it glued down and kind of work around it. I have the luxury here of not really having that restriction, so I'm just gonna kind of apply this stuff as I see fit. And again, kind of defining out that puddled area. Got another one there, so I'm going to kind of work around that as well. And you'll notice that I kind of just sort of keep troweling it out. If you do have a trowel or sculpting tools, they also work good for this particular task. But I didn't want to have to pull out a bunch of tools, and then you guys were going to think that that's kind of the only way to do it. So a popsicle stick, as you can see, works just fine. It's maybe not the most controlled tool, maybe not the most precise. You could always sharpen it down if you feel that you need to have a little bit more of a pointier precision working instrument. That's always fine. Sometimes I will angle or cut them just so that they do a little bit more for me, but in this case I'm feeling fairly confident that I can get done what I need to get done here. Alright, this is particularly nasty looking. Definitely can see where the sticks and leaves are sort of poking through and all that good stuff. And again, I'm just going to go in and just define those peripheries of the pond, trying to do my very best. Now, let's just say I have, for example, I want to sort of smooth out some of these edges. Just switch to your more precise instrument. In this case, is going to be your toothpick. So I'm just going to flatten all this down. And this stuff is quite adhesive, but it's nice in the sense that it actually always remains flexible. So when you put this across, like for example, I work across a lot of tiles, so I put this down as a ground layer. I can cut it later, and I know it's going to be flexible. It's not going to harden where it's going to chip. It actually stays. it solidifies, but it stays always a little bit flexible, and that's really a nice feature of it, because I know it's not going to chip off bases, or if I drop something on it, it's not gonna be damaged in any way. All right, so let me just show you guys what we got going on here now. So you can see it's quite quite gritty in terms of like undulated surfaces. There's a lot of holes, twigs, that sort of stuff sticking up. You notice I didn't care about where the eventual water effects is going to go. That's not a concern for me right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back later with the exact same leaf litter, and we're going to build up this area. We're going to put the color splashes in without having to paint all this, but this is really going to look like it is rotted away debris and all of those sort of things. So let's just set that guy aside. He'll be something we can work with in part 2. We'll get rid of that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at just straight up basing. What does the material look like out of the package, and how easy is it to work with there? And then how do we kind of make just a sort of standard grit type base? Also important to note that this stuff comes in a sandy color as well as a dark earth. So I could have done this with a dark earth color. I actually like working with the brown more often than not because I find I can shade it up to a light color, like a desert color, and I can also shade it down to a much murkier, muddy look. It's very hard to upshade the dark one, and likewise, it's very hard to light shade the lightest one. It's already as light as it can be, so you don't really have a lot of versatility with the other two. Not as much, I find, as with the earth color here. So again, just applied a little bit of peanut butter, aka earth paste, into a cup. I'm going to just work with the sand, something you guys might have commonly found around your house. I'm just going to mix that in. Don't worry about the ratios. If you find it's too gritty, add some more paste. If it's not gritty enough, then add some more grit. Easy. And I'm just stirring in the cup here. Want to try to get as much coverage on the grit as possible. So just sort of manipulating that around, smashing against the side, pulling it up, that sort of stuff. And I just sort of bring it all together. It's kind of like you're mixing a cake. You know, you got to get all those dry ingredients mixed into the mixture. You don't want to be able to kind of pick out any one thing. I think we're looking pretty good. So there, you can see it's quite sturdy on the popsicle stick. So I'm going to put some on there, and I'm going to put some on here. Again, this would be very common procedure for basing your miniatures, for example. I will give you a kind of a hint, though, particularly around the Star Wars Legion figs, just because I've been doing a lot of kind of Star Wars Legion type stuff. Because the figs basically come without, having just bare feet kind of thing, you could certainly base this and plug the miniatures right into this base. It would be such an easy process. It would hold the minis. I don't think you'd need any extra glue, because when you go ahead and seal the bases, that's going to get down into all the crevices and the cracks anyway, and your minis should be, I'm quite confident, looking really good and really secure on there. Again, I'm just going to sort of smooth this over. If I find I have any excess, I'll just sort of trim around the edge. There we go. Okay. So that is what that guy looks like there. He's just going to be just a standard base. It's, again, I smoothed out the grit here. A couple spots I left a little bit of a little bit of depressions, a little bit of the cavities, a little recesses around. There's a nice stone right there. I just left that. So I'm going to set him aside as well. And then the other one, let's have a look at this guy. Do this guy a little bit. material. Again, I'm just manipulating the base here around to create a little bit different surface. I want to have this one be a little bit more gritty in formation. Like I want to have this one have not that nice, clean, smooth surface. You'll see the difference here in a second. I'm going to go ahead in and take a nice stone, and I'm going to embed it right into the material as well. Make sure when you do that though, you don't just push the rock in, because what it'll do, it'll displace your ground material and it'll look kind of artificial. So you got to go back in, sort of do a little back blending. You know, if you want to cover part of the stone as well, make it look like it's protruding out of the ground, which it should be. That's also fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another little guy over here, jam him in there as well. Okay, so what I also did, so you guys know, let's finish this stone here. Okay, so what I also did is I left a couple larger depressions right in here, and what I'm going to do after is I'm going to press some plant material in there. I like to leave little depressions in as opposed to gluing everything right on the surface. When you glue your base material right onto the, especially for bases, for terrain work, it's really hard to leave enough depressions for all your vegetation. But on a base, if you can leave some depressions, that allows the material to press in a little bit, and it looks a little less artificial as it kind of sticks right to the surface. It really looks like it's coming out of the ground, and I think you'll see that when we kind of get into the to the second part of this. So. Yeah, so there we go. Let me just recap here as I wrap this this part one up here. We got the first bit of base material done here. It's drying. It's that real thick detritus type stuff, not looking very groomed at all. We're going to have some nice big puddles in there, and then later on add some more leaf litter around there to make that look very interesting, more of a let's say a murky forest floor, or maybe a swamp type area. Then we went with the more standardized flat, a few depressions just to give it a little bit of variation. I hate doing just the flat old sand bases. You dry brush and everything looks the same. I'm not a fan of that. So every base needs to have a little character in it. So that one's there. It's very minimal, but it's there. And then this one here went with a couple stones, a little bit more build up area there, and then a few depressions so that we can sink some plants in when we get. I'm going to leave another depression right there actually. When we get to that stage. As I said in part two. So there you go, guys. Again, just sort of a test to test out the camera here, and then of course the camera here for you guys. So I do appreciate you guys sticking with me on all these tests. Again, working with all the new equipment, all the new lighting, that sort of stuff has been a bit of a learning curve for me, to say the least. This stuff down here, this is not so much a learning curve, but definitely one of my passions and something I'm looking to share with you guys. I'm going to be doing YouTube videos as well as my Patreon, so I do encourage you. It's brand new. I do want people to come over and check it out. I'll be doing some exclusive stuff. This one here, I'm just going to show you guys. I'm going to do both parts. readily available for you guys, but in the future there's going to be patrons will be able to get exclusive content as well as sneak peeks and early release of other content. And the bonus, depending on what tier you are on, and I had a price reduction to make it very affordable, I'm hoping people will really snatch up to this, is the chance to interact with me and get particularly how-tos cater to what you're looking for. So if you are looking for something, how do I do this, I will create that and I will actually interact with you as we do it, and I can do that on a fairly regular basis. So please check that out. Links will be down in the liner notes, and you guys can come over and say hello at the very least. So again, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.